Yo, ho. Don Mafia. Welcome to another edition of the Don Mafia Report. That is right. I am doing this episode live. You have heard my gripes in the past of being like, hey, listen, editing is a giant pain in the ass. It still is. But I figured I love talking about the Bills, clearly. And I'm going to continue to talk about the Bills. And I feel just to go on ahead and take away I would say the inconvenience of sitting down and editing for hours and hours to bring you the content that you so desperately need. Might as well take this bitch live, baby. Take it live already. You read that title of the video correctly. I've seen several people already in the live chat perhaps may have misinterpreted what I ended up titling this video in, as in the Buffalo Bills do not need Josh Allen. We certainly do. Okay, in hindsight, I probably should have titled this live stream, titled this video, The Buffalo Bills Can Win Without Josh Allen. Now, granted, we're only talking about a very small sample size. We've seen a Jekyll and Hyde type of Buffalo Bills team where we are in desperate need of Josh Allen to play a damn game for us to win. We have also seen games where we need our defense to play a damn good game in order for us to win because Josh Allen maybe isn't firing the way that he typically should. But for the first time in a very, 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 very long time, the Buffalo Bills won against the Atlanta Falcons, in my opinion, with our run game. Say, for example, that you guys knew me in the past, especially in 2019. I was the guy that would essentially go through and say, damn, run the damn ball, baby. Okay. And then in 2020, I started getting really pissed off. And then in 2021, which just ended a couple of days ago, I was at a whole new level of being pissed off and saying, don't run the damn ball. Okay. We can't run the ball. I mean, you've heard me say that. And several of you called me out on that. You're like, no, Dan, we need to run. And until this past Sunday, I was not a believer. But holy hell, ladies and gentlemen, we without a doubt ran that ball down the Atlanta Falcons' throat. And today, what we're going to do is we're going to be focusing on that. I'm going to go on ahead. I'm definitely going to be taking a couple of questions from the live chat. But before we get into all of it, if you guys are new here, my name is Dan Mitchell. I am a Buffalo Bills YouTuber. I put out content on a regular basis, or at least I used to. It's coming back per usual. Now it's going to be exclusively live shows for the time being. If you want to talk to me, the best way is on Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter at realdanmitchell. If you're new to this channel, subscribe, smash the ever-living fuck out of that like button for your boy, and welcome. Welcome to the show. We're seeing a bunch of people in the chat already. Super excited to see a lot of you guys. I noticed a lot of you actually are regular viewers of my live game reaction. I saw many of you guys in there on Sunday. Not sure if many of you know this, but I am going through what we call dry January. I will not be drinking. So if you ended up watching my live stream this past Sunday, it probably wasn't as high energy per usual because I wasn't slamming a fat ass 12er of Labatt Blue throughout the remainder of the game. But super, super excited to talk today. And I have no idea why I chose playoff football month to not drink. But you know what? At the end of the day, I'm going to do it. It just is what it is. But we certainly have a lot to talk about. Bostron 5000, thank you so much for the super chat, my friend. It definitely helps out my channel tremendously. Thank you so much. Bostron 5000 says that run game on Sunday was special. We're going to get into that, man. We are going to get into that. I just went on this huge soapbox a bit earlier talking about how impressed I was. Perhaps the Dan Mitchell from 2019 that legitimately would stare you in the eye and say, run the damn ball, is back. He might be back, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to have to see. I want to see some more consistency against the Jets on Sunday. But at the end of the day, I'm really hoping that we can go on ahead and we can just sort of blow the Jets out of the water by the half so we can sit all of our starters and then go into the playoffs. Steph, what's going on, Steph? She's a regular viewer of mine. Super awesome. Thank you for coming on in. Thank you for coming on in. Brian Buck comes in. He says, dry January. Not that there's anything wrong with that. We already have people upset. Hey, listen, ladies and gentlemen, I assure you my energy is still going to be comparable to all of my shows. I'm still going to be the Dan Mitchell that you know and love. But this time, all of my quips, my jokes, my energy, you'll be able to fully understand it, and I won't be slurring my words by the fourth quarter. So something to look forward to, which is always a good thing during my live game reactions. So, okay, guys, there's like a lot I wanted to talk about in this game on Sunday. I want to focus on the positives, and then at the same time, I want to go on ahead and then I want to focus on some of the negatives, right? But very first off, we need to talk about what made me excited about that win against the Atlanta Falcons, right? I mean, really, when you end up looking at it, I mean, 29-15. I know when you ended up watching the game, obviously there was the Josh Allen 3 interceptions. You go into this game, you look at the Atlanta Falcons, who don't let their record fool you. Their only wins were against the bottom quarter of the league. I wouldn't even say half of the league, the bottom quarter of the league. Proven stat out there. All of us were expecting our team to go out there and absolutely just put up 50 on these fools, 110%. Joe Miller from Buffalo Rumblings, great podcast network. If you haven't had an opportunity to check that out, wanted to put it out that if those 3 interceptions did not happen, then the Buffalo Bills probably would have ended up putting 50 on this team. I mean, let's just be completely honest with ourselves at this point. I mean, really, when you look at it, the weather, of course, ended up playing a factor. Really wasn't a lot of wind. It was snowing pretty hard from what I ended up seeing, from what all of my family members, friends that I knew that were at the game had to say about it. But we ended up taking care of business, and we did beat the Falcons. Perhaps not by as much as we would have liked to, but really, at the end of the day, one thing I want everyone to understand when you're reflecting on this past Sunday, we still won by damn 2 scores, y'all. 2 scores. Like, that's nothing to hang your head about. I mean, we obviously put that team away, and it probably would have been a hell of a lot worse if those 3 or 4 turnovers, I'm pretty sure. I mean, the turnover differential was 4-1, and the Atlanta Falcons still lost that game by 2 scores. So I can definitely see people being upset with Josh Allen with his interceptions, etc., but he got it done with his legs. And Devin Singletary ended up doing his thing, which is a great segue into me explaining my overall title. Because, like I said, I've seen a couple of people come on in and say, hey, Dan, what are you talking about? The Bills definitely do need Josh Allen. We do. I feel like in hindsight, I probably should have retitled this video as in the Buffalo Bills can win without Josh Allen, especially what they ended up putting out on the field this past Sunday. Because our run game, finally, for the love of God, ended up reigniting after God knows how long. Devin Singletary, who quietly has been being very effective for the past couple of games, ended up rushing for over 110 yards. He was the X factor of this game, right? I mean, obviously, the pass attack was not working. Let's just say that Josh wasn't throwing it the way that I'm sure that he was used to. Maybe the ball wasn't coming off of his hand. Maybe the weather had to do with it. But Devin Singletary really ended up stepping up, and shout out to our offensive line. I mean, as much as I was ready to rip my hair out and just absolutely cuss out Brian Dable if I were to ever see him in public for continuously trying to call all of these run plays, I feel like a lot of us should be thankful, because while we never abandoned the run, which people like myself and several other Bills fans were pounding the table in order for us to do so, I suppose our offensive line just ended up started getting enough of experience when it came down into run blocking, where Devin was finally able to be effective. And I absolutely loved it, right? I absolutely loved it. I also love the fact that Josh Allen, which is absolutely hysterical, he was our second leading rusher at this point on Sunday, rushing for about 81 yards and 2 touchdowns. I mean, if there is any time ever where we need the Buffalo Bills run game to get hot, it's right now, especially with the playoffs right around the corner. Now, tomorrow I'm going to be going live exactly at 8 p.m. again, And we're going to be focusing on all of the potential playoff scenarios. I'm going to be whipping out the ESPN calculator. We're going to look at who our opponent would be during several different outcomes of all of the games that are going to occur this final week of the regular season. So we're going to have to look at that. But from what I have seen prior to, of course, doing my research for tomorrow's video, it is looking that we are most likely going to play either the Patriots or the Colts, right? So us being able to establish a run game, especially in Buffalo, because I mean, I'll be honest with you guys, I probably would have much preferred us going into the playoffs on the road, especially with how inconsistent we have been at home. So that's definitely something to consider. But having that run game finally seeming to be established, I'm praying to God that Ryan Bates being out is not going to affect any of the progress that it took us so long to get since then is going to be ruined from it. But overall, absolutely thrilled with the overall run game. Now, being able to step back and talk about Josh Allen here, yes, obviously, I was not pleased with our quarterback's performance. You know that I am always the one person that comes up and says, "Hey, I'm going to defend that interception because it was tipped off." Blah blah blah. Let's be honest with ourselves. I would say 2 of those 3 interceptions were entirely Josh Allen's fault. Perhaps even 3. All 3 of them were. And those were specific decisions that I thought that he shouldn't have made, whether or not that the weather had to do with those particular interceptions by itself. But things like that simply cannot happen. And I mean, you hear a lot of us always talk about, and Bills fans are always split between we need the dome, we don't need a dome. It really doesn't matter at this point, because even if today the Pagulas were to say, "Hey guys, listen, we're going to go on ahead and build out a dome," it's not going to be ready for 7-8 years. And I mean, who knows if Josh Allen's going to be, slowly slipping into the twilight of his career at that point. It's not going to help now. What needs to help now is for Josh Allen to be able to not necessarily lean so heavily on the pass when things just aren't going his way. And luckily, we have ended up showing that the Buffalo Bills have seemed to figure out the whole run game. So if Josh can't win it for us, I'm feeling pretty damn good going into the playoffs with the way that our run game has finally started gaining some chemistry and gaining some traction going into it. So overall, very, very happy about this situation already. Really hoping that we'll be able to go on ahead and take care of business against the Jets on Sunday, which is hysterical, which ended up getting flexed to 4 p.m. Not really sure how I feel about that. But anyway, let's go on ahead. Let's go into some questions over here, ladies and gentlemen. Let's talk a little football. We've already heard my thoughts on the Atlanta Falcons. We've already heard my thoughts on how I'm going to start screaming, run the damn ball once again. 2019 is back in front of us, and then we will go from there. Caden came in and said, Beasley stopped running the route. Caden, very interesting. I remember watching that, and I thought the exact same thing. I was very upset. What happened right there was that was a stop route. And while I believe that Beasley probably should have obviously readjusted when he noticed that the ball was thrown, maybe like 2 or 3 feet off to his right, at the very least, make a dive or something, make some type of effort. I don't believe that he stopped running his route. It was just a stop route. But him just absolutely sitting there for no reason whatsoever, yeah, that was certainly frustrating. But at the end of the day, in my opinion, that was a stop route, and that had nothing to do with Beasley not running the correct route. I mean, if there is any person on this team whatsoever that I am going to be nervous about not being able to run their routes, it is Cole Beasley. I would have liked to see a little bit more effort into sort of improvising and then diving and trying to bat it away. But yeah, most definitely. Steph, amazing question. Steph comes in and says, is there any updates on Bates? So weird they seem to be quiet about it. Yes, Steph. I agree with you that it is a little odd that nobody has spoken about it. From what I understand, and please somebody correct me if I am wrong, doctors came out today saying that it's either a high ankle sprain or a sprained MCL. The good thing is that we're not talking about something that's completely torn and he's out for the season. There's always a possibility that he can come back. Let's hope that it is a high ankle sprain, because I would imagine that's probably going to be something that would heal a bit quicker than a sprained MCL. High ankle sprains are no joke, though. I mean, you're still looking at about like 2 to 3 weeks, if that. But I'm hoping that we'll be able to see him in the playoffs. I mean, who knew how effective he was, right? I mean, back in the day, I just saw him as just a practice squad guy, a depth player, but he really ended up stepping up when our offensive line was struggling. And he's a tremendous run blocker. He's a tremendous pass blocker. But from what I understand, that's what doctors are thinking. It's either a sprained MCL or a high ankle sprain. That's what I ended up reading on him. But very important. If there are any injuries that I want to avoid going into the playoffs, it's definitely going to be within the trenches, because we saw how different this team is when we do not have effective play in the trenches. Monday, they said Bates was day to day. Day to day is a hell of a lot better, than out indefinitely or that. So, I mean, let's go ahead and cross our fingers. I don't see a need for us to start them against the Jets or start him against the Jets. So let's go ahead and cross our fingers here and hope that Ryan Bates is going to be full go, especially since it's looking like that we're most likely going to be facing either the Colts or the Patriots. I would much rather play the Patriots the first round than the Colts, not going to lie to you. But here we are. Beautiful. Father Snowman is coming in. Morning, Dan, and everyone. Father Snowman. What's going on, man? I know that I'm pretty sure he says that he is in Hong Kong. I could be wrong. Could be wrong on that end. And then go from here. Yeah, once again, go Bills. We ended up sort of touching on this briefly, but several people were very upset about Beasley, who intended to stop his route. He was running a stop route right there. So while he didn't run the incorrect route, I am a little upset that he didn't continue to improvise and try and at least dive and knock down something when he noticed that Josh's ball wasn't necessarily on target. But in Beasley's defense, it was snowing, and we all know that Josh Allen throws absolute piss missiles. So that should be very interesting from there. Caden, thoughts on our secondary without Trey? In my opinion, Poyer and Hyde stepped up, but they got away from their pre-snap disguises. I also think an argument can be made that they haven't faced anyone talented, but Tom Brady. I think that the jury is still out, but there are a couple of things that I will say. I think our secondary has still been absolutely lights out. And a lot of it has to do with the overall scheme that Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane have put together so far. And I mean, honestly, for a 7th-round player in Dane Jackson, he made some pretty damn good plays. He's been making some really damn good plays. And one other thing that's going to go on ahead and help us sleep at night as well, while the Falcons are not a good team whatsoever, you do need to understand that they are a pass first offense. And our secondary ended up holding them to about 15 points, right? So would our team be better with Trey? Absolutely. But I think that the scheme that McDermott and Frazier have ended up putting together, I think that that's half of the reason why our secondary is so damn good. We can afford to lose one of our stars, right? Right now it's Trey. Really hope that he has a wonderful recovery and then he comes back next season like he never left. But it certainly helps that our safeties are Jordan Poyer, who, by the way, was just named an All-Pro honors, which is hysterical that he wasn't on the Pro Bowl roster, but at the same time he was elsewhere. But now he's on All-Pro, which makes a lot more sense and is a much higher honor than that fucking popularity contest for the most part. So definitely something that could be interesting. Okay. RD706 is coming in. Dan, if we make it to the Super Bowl this year, which team coming out of the NFC would you want to face in LA? Bucks, Packers, Cowboys, Rams, or Cardinals? Now, listen, I'm going to go on ahead and I'm going to put it out there that I am treating each and every single week as I want to go 1-0, right? As far as an exciting Super Bowl matchup, I don't even know if I want to put this energy out there, just get my hopes up and then just be disappointed. I think a Bills Packers Super Bowl would be awesome. Two small market teams going at it right in front of the United States. Everyone would be absolutely thrilled with it. Spin 481 comes in and says, we have a number one pass defense with a 4th rounder, 5th rounder, 2 7th rounders, and an undrafted player for our DBs. That is actually fantastic that you pointed that out. I mean, really, you just putting that out in front of me, it's crazy, right? I mean, you can seriously just go back and look at the roster and be able to come to that kind of conclusion, but seeing it all put together in a damn sentence makes you, really go insane. It's great, man. Honestly, really, when it comes down to it, I am loving what our secondary has been doing, even with Trey White not being on the roster right now, being injured. It's really, really incredible with the mind of Leslie Frazier and Sean McDermott of what they've been able to do. Trent Wainman is coming in with a new message. The biggest problem for the Bills is probably their consistency. On certain weeks, they look like Super Bowl contenders, and on others, they look like the most overrated team in the league. Trent, you are preaching to the choir, my friend. The Buffalo Bills are truly a Jekyll and Hyde type of team. You never really understand what you are going to get. It seems like Bills, a lot of the time, they end up going on ahead and they play down to their competition. However, there is one thing that I did want to point out. For the past 17 games in the regular season, the Buffalo Bills have won by a 10-plus point sort of with a differential, right? So when we beat teams, we are beating them convincingly. The main difference from last year, if you look at our record from 1-score games in 2020, and you look at our record this year from 1-score games this year, it is completely flip-flopped. Because the Buffalo Bills last year were very good with 1-score games. They ended up being clutch and going down. And this year, not so much, right? When we end up, really, when you look at it, the only game that we have lost, we got blown the fuck out, was the Colts. Everything else, especially against good teams, with the Tennessee Titans, we were legitimately Josh Allen slipping away from us winning that game. And from us potentially being the number 1 seed. We could potentially be the number 1 seed. Say, for example, that the Titans lose next week, we win, and Josh didn't slip and we beat the Titans, we would be the number 1 seed of this entire league. After that, it's really, really crazy to think. Spin 0481, great. He's being like my sort of Jamie to a Joe Rogan over here. We're 0-5 in 1-score games. Last year, it was completely different. It's really just sort of how the cookie crumbles right over there. You know what I mean? So when people say that we're inconsistent, yes, I still think that we are a great team, but just those close games haven't been going in our favor. And I think that that's a huge factor into overall trying to weigh exactly how the Bills truly are. I'm just hoping that our luck is going to be able to change a little bit when it comes down to these 1-score games going into the playoffs. But I'm just going to keep that energy out there that the Buffalo Bills are legitimately just going to go on ahead and just continue to blast away teams by multiple possessions and multiple scores, which would be great. But Del Mafia, I just wanted to come on here, hop on real fast, give you my thoughts on the Atlanta Falcons game, answer a couple of questions. Like I said, I'm probably going to be doing this more live shows. Like I said, I've been making videos for a long time, and just the way that my life has been going as far as editing videos and spending hours and hours, it's just not feasible for me anymore. So now my content's going to be live, baby. I'm a live guy now, okay? And I'm going to be doing it at 8 p.m. I will be back tomorrow at 8 p.m. Mark your calendars, subscribe to my channel, and turn on those bell notifications so you know. Tomorrow, we are going to be looking at each and every single playoff possibility of the first round of who the Bills could play. Like I said, it's more than likely looking like it's going to be either the Pats or the Colts, but I'm going to whip out the ESPN calculator. We are going to be going through each and every single scenario that we possibly can. Down Mafia, thank you so much. Make sure you subscribe to this channel, like this video, and tune in tomorrow at 8 p.m. when we start breaking down the Buffalo Bills playoff possibilities. Thank you so much, everybody. And as always, before I let you go, let's go.